So we're here to talk today about mobile technology in the legal industry. And I see we have a very diverse crowd here, not only from the States, but we've got some folks from outside of the country. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are. Thank you for spending some time with me today. My name is John Kuntz. I'm one of the co-founders of Bellefield. For those of you who do not know who we are, Bellefield are the leaders in mobile applications in the legal space. To put it another way, we build things attorneys not only like, but they want to use. We are laser focused on two things specifically. One is keeping ahead of the crazy mobile market, which I'm 56 years old, and the rate of change in this technology is unlike anything I've ever experienced to date. And the second thing we do is we want to get into the heads of the attorneys so we know how to change their habits. I know that sounds daunting and impossible because you've probably been trying to do it your entire lives at your legal firms, but we've actually succeeded in this. So, mobility. We all know that Google's founder, Eric Schmidt, is a pretty bright guy. He said, mobile is no longer winning. It is already won. And he really puts his money where his mouth is. They've been purchasing specifically in two major industries. One is in mobility. They want to own the mobile market, and they're fighting with Facebook and several others to own that market. And also, it's somewhat in robotics, and you've heard a lot about that. But just in mobility alone, they purchased Nest Labs for $3.2 billion. They bought Android quite some time ago for the paltry sum of $50 million. They bought YouTube a while back for $1.65 million. And you know everybody's on their phones using up data on YouTube. And I don't know if you know the app called Waze. Waze was, W-A-Z-E, was created by some Israelis. I think there's 50 people in the firm. It's one of those GPS directional apps, and it's social crowding meets GPS. And they paid over $1 billion for that because they want to own the mobile market. And this is where these firms are spending billions and billions of dollars to do so because this is the future. And like Eric Schmidt has said, it is already won. But why has Google, Facebook, and many other firms sprinted to their own section of the world to own the mobile market? Well, if you look at it, there's 7 billion people on Earth. A lot of people, a lot of mouths to feed. But the number of mobile devices will exceed that world population by 2014, and we're halfway through the year, and I created this slide in the beginning of the year. We have achieved this. There's 7.3 billion estimated mobile devices versus 7 billion people. That's an incredible number. Obviously, a lot of people have more than one device. So smartphone owners are more likely to read emails and make phone calls. 80% use their devices to check email. 78% use their mobile devices to receive calls. We found that very interesting, but it dawned on me one day. So I was watching my kids text and text and text. I found myself saying, why don't you just call your friends? Why are you texting? And I got that you have two heads look from them. And if you have any kids, you know that look that you get from them, like you have two heads. Well, there is a reason for these numbers, because they're emailing and texting more than they're calling, so that certainly skews the numbers. So then there's the apps. Obviously, with all these devices, with the 100 and some Android devices, the mini iPads, the mini iPhones, the Windows Phone, and the Blackberries for what it is that are still out there, there's an explosive growth in downloads. So there's 1.9 million apps available. And the downloads are 132 billion total apps will be downloaded by 2014. That's insane. 132 billion apps. We think there's an app for everything, but more and more are being created every minute. And this includes legal apps. I see news for new apps on a daily basis. The cool thing is that each app can have a specific usage, maybe something just for IP, something just for family law, or specific to bankruptcy. So apps don't need to be global to the law firm. They can be for specific practice groups and specific needs, right? You probably see a lot of that in your firms. So smartphone usage, and this was no surprise. We looked at usage as it pertains to firm size. Solos are quite high at 85%, and then it goes up from there. The larger the firm, the deeper the usage, which kind of makes sense because those larger firms are probably in more urban cities and the like. That wasn't very surprising. What platforms are attorneys using? And this is pretty common sense as well. There's no surprise here either. Apple being the predominant player, Androids are a bit behind, and BlackBerry is well lower than 16% and dropping. I think they're about 12 as we sit here. and that little blue thing would be the Windows phone. And any gain, I would posit that any gain from Apple or Android is at the behest of BlackBerry share, because time and time again I see the subscriptions ending, and the attorneys are buying iOS devices or Android devices within the firms, and you can probably agree with that. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to go down to the questions thing on your dashboard, and we'll try to answer all your questions. I'll also give you my email towards the end here. Get to the next slide. So attorneys love mobile. They absolutely, positively love mobile. And this speaks for itself, but checking and responding to emails is a billable action. Imagine how much time is sliding through the cracks. 89% of attorneys are using their mobile devices to check their emails, and we see that. No matter where you see somebody, you're standing in line at Starbucks, nobody's talking to each other. It could be a pretty big queue of people. Everybody's looking at their phones, checking their emails, checking their text, possibly talking on their phones. So we have 90% of the attorneys are using smartphones, which I think is low. I do from time to time see an attorney with a flip phone, and I kind of make fun of them and say, they've been looking for that in the museum. And I get a little sneer. And so 89% of them are using it to check their emails, which it kind of makes sense, no? So, and then we all know what the BYOD movement is, bring your own device, which is the legal's catching up to the other firms or the other companies. 62% of companies allow BYOD. We have 44% of law firms. I'd say it's probably, since I created this in the beginning of the year, it's probably up over 50% by now. I wouldn't be surprised that when the ILTA technology survey comes out, it's even far greater than that, because the IT departments have given in. They've those big locked doors have been batted down, and they're allowing the attorneys to bring whatever devices they want, whatever devices they're demanding, actually, and that's how that all started. So tablets are also winning big. Over 500,000 attorneys are using iPads, and that's out of 1.2 million attorneys in the States. 92% of firms allow the use of tablets within their infrastructure, and again, half of the attorneys are using tablets. And there's many new tablets coming out. So we have there's several iPads. They have the Windows Surface, which is gaining a lot of traction, and there's many Android tablets. There's always many Android everything. Many Android tablets like the Galaxy, and I see a lot of them out in the field. So what are attorneys doing with their smartphones? And this is shocking. We saw in the last two slides the high use of smartphones and tablets. What we are not seeing, though, is them being used productively. And what I mean by productively, if you do something for a client, if you don't bill for it, you are not productive. You're just working. And that's one of the key issues, and the reason we started Bellefield 5 years ago is that we found that productivity, the more use of smartphones and tablets there is, the less productive the attorneys are, because they're not recording their time. And we'll talk about why in a minute, because remember I said we got into the heads of the attorneys. Believe it or not, we did, to understand exactly why productivity has gone down so much instead of going, you think these would make you more productive. And ever since the BlackBerry came out, is what precipitated this loss in productivity, if you will. And it's basically because they're not recording their time. And the issue is there's 24/7 access. There's never a minute's sleep. With all the apps that we talked about, 132 billion downloads of apps, the plethora of phones, the plethora of tablets, you can work anywhere from everywhere. So your emails come to PCs, laptops, smartphones, and tablets. You can get phone calls at work. It can be transferred to home. I have a built-in cell in my car, right? Text messages come everywhere, and my voicemails. And I'm certainly part and parcel to the nuttiness of what's going on. My voicemails are converted to text, and I get a text telling me that I have a voicemail, and I can read. It does the recognition where it's converted to text, and I can read the voice, which is, I need to stop. Everybody needs to stop, but we can't because we want to keep up. And then we hear that, or we hear that, and that evokes an emotion. Anytime you hear that text sound, I was out last night having dinner by myself at a local establishment, and somebody five chairs away from me, their phone went off and texted, and they got a text, the ding. I know it wasn't mine, but I looked at my phone anyway. And we found that 60%, 67% of smartphone owners, 67% of smartphone owners will check their phone even when they know there's nothing on it. That's insane. I do it all the time. I'm always grabbing it. It's becoming a habit. We live in an environmentally ADD society. We don't all have ADD, but the environment causes us to have that. We're continually being interrupted by these sounds, these tones, these quick emails that we get. And it's very hard to be productive like that. And it's created, it evoked a huge change in productivity, especially in legal. So then we look at the mind of an attorney. And I promise you it's not a blank slide. But the mind of an attorney, once you cut the mind open and look inside, is very simple, actually. We have the attorney in the practice of law and a big line between the two. Anything that gets the attorney off that line, they don't want to do. The reason being, this is what they're educated for, what they've trained for. It feeds their competitive nature. It feeds their ego. It's winning. Attorneys love to win. That's why they're in the business. They want to succeed. They want to do what they can do for their client. Anything that gets in the way of that, they don't want to do. We ask them to go to meetings. But if it's a meeting about a case, that's pregame strategy. That's part of being on that line, right? It's a meeting about something with the firm. They're snoozing. And you know as well as I do, if you send an email out to your attorney saying we're having a meeting about time entry, nobody will show up. You can't drag them to show up. Expenses is another issue. The number one thing that gets the attorney off the line that they simply hate to do is timekeeping. It's an age-old problem. And the more they're using these devices outside of the office, even it's funny, we studied what mobile means 5 years ago when we started Bellefield. And we thought mobile meant when an attorney was, we wanted to help the traveling attorney. And then as we delve deeper, it's, well, if they're at a deposition off-site, if they're somewhere, anywhere. And then we really looked at this. We literally follow attorneys, record their workflow and how they do things. When they get up out of their desk and they're walking down the hall to a colleague's office, they have their phone in their hand and they're doing things. They're reading emails, maybe taking a quick phone call. Then they go in and talk to Bob, and they just lost a 0.1, maybe 2.1s, maybe more, depending if they had to change floors. It happens time and time again. So mobile is as soon as they get their butt out of the seat, they are mobile. They don't have their time and billing system and all their other tools handy with them. This is the way they used to do it. I love this slide. I've had so many attorneys come up to me and say, you know, I found a piece of paper in my pocket where I recorded some time, and I haven't worn these pants for a month, and it's still in there, and I forgot to do it. And times have changed, ladies and gentlemen. No longer does mail come in just a paper envelope like it used to. Mail comes continually all day long. The attorneys are working mobily with these thousands and thousands of applications that are out there and available to them. You may not even know what apps that they're using that they have that are specific to them. But I guarantee you one thing, they're not recording their time. They're doing it like this. They're writing it on a piece of paper, sending themselves a voicemail. I've had attorneys that send a Word document to their legal secretary, and then the legal secretary has to figure out what the heck's going on, which is this. There is a better way. But when we look at what's going on and what's going on with the market, so we developed iTimeKeep, which is a mobile application to enter time. We integrate with virtually every time and billing system. But what we also realized was, as I was alluding to before, we have all these apps that are available that they can use from their hotel room, from their home, from their child's soccer game. And as they're using those apps, what they can't do is be productive by recording their time. So we developed an API, and this is really going to be the way that the market is going, because typically up to now, you open an app that does one thing. You can only do, like you check the weather. It's not like it's integrating with another application to help with productivity. So the geniuses here at Bellefield, my partners, developed what's called an API that we give away for free to these other application makers. So as they're using them, they can access iTimeKeep and record their time. So now, and I'm calling it App 2.0, because now it's just not a siloed app. You can actually do more than one thing with it. And if any of you have eBilling Hub, which was our previous company that we sold to Thomson Reuters, We integrate with eBilling Hub, and we've WinScribe. This just came about in the last couple of months. WinScribe, the dictation software. There's WinScribe, BigHand, and some others. WinScribe is the #1 selling dictation software. They've integrated iTimeKeep into their mobile app, so as the attorneys are working for a client using their dictation services on the mobile application, they just have to hit a little button. It'll pull the matter name and be able to record the time, which is really fantastic and really locking everything down. So time entry has a new face from a mobile perspective. There's been a 5% increase in the past year just in firms using mobile time entry products. And I'm happy to say and proud to say that 30% of the time on mobile devices is entered on weekends and after business hours. And as we've done this, the surveys they do with over the 10,000 attorneys that are using our products, what we found is the number, and this is again common sense, the #1 time, or the #1 areas where attorneys are not recording their time most likely to be leaked, if you will, is when they're out of the office. So this is after hours between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m., the off-business hours, on weekends and on holidays. And what we found is once they have a way to put their darn time in, that's when they're putting it in. So they're gathering this time back that they would previously have lost. And then I don't know if you all have done any research like we have on reconstructionist versus contemporaneous time entry, but it should be no surprise that if they record their time at the time of service, which we call at least the same day, which we call contemporaneous time entry, they will record 25 to 40% more time. That's a big number. If you all have a calculator handy, figure out what your rate is and multiply the hours worked by your attorneys and multiply that by 1.25 and see what number you come up with. For a lot of my firms, it's high in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of time that they're bringing back, or revenue that they're bringing back that's lost. It's impossible. I have so many attorneys tell me, oh, I'm a good timekeeper. I had one fellow tell me he comes in on Saturday mornings to record his time. Every Saturday he comes in. And as I'm asking him questions, he has 2 little boys, and they play soccer. And I said, you're missing your kids' soccer games by going in. All you need to do is record your time contemporaneously, and everybody's a winner, and you're with your family more. So iTimeKeep, we have 60% of the market. There's actually almost 7 out of 10 firms. 7 out of 10 firms using mobile time entry use iTimeKeep. And it's growing, and we're integrating with all those other products that are out there. And these new apps are coming in daily. If you get any of the news feeds from legal, it's amazing how quickly this is growing. And like I said earlier, a lot of times you don't even know if your attorneys are using these apps because they're really just significant to them and their practice group. But we really need to give them a way not only to use those apps, but to be able to record their time. And I've had one of the survey questions I have when I give my CLE classes is how many do you feel that your attorneys are technology phobic, meaning they don't like technology? And I get a lot of people raising their hands, and that is absolutely not the case. And pardon the way I say this, but I have found that attorneys are crappy technology phobic. If it's lousy technology, meaning it takes there's a big learning curve, it's not intuitive, we run away from it, and we all do that. If it's something that's very intuitive, they'll use it. Email, they're using their emails on the phone. How many, I can't tell you how many older attorneys are using iPads, because a lot of the apps they use are intuitive. So what I want to show you right now is a mobile app in action that is intuitive. So let me turn this off here. If the technology gods are with me, I'm going to show you my iPhone here in just a moment. And I think, yay, here we go. So there's my iPhone. So you can download iTimeKeep for free. It's on the App Store, the Google Play Store. You can download iTimeKeep, and you can do the same demo I'm showing you right now. As you purchase any apps, or you recommend any apps for your attorneys, it needs to be intuitive, and it needs not to be complex. So, and this is just a sample that I can show you right now. So download iTimeKeep for free, log into iTimeKeep, and since you're not a user, we've given you the ability to log in as a guest. You can see that down at the bottom under Reset Password. I'm going to touch Login as a Guest, And since this is the first time I'm using it, there's a little welcome screen with some directions. I can skip right by that. So imagine that the attorney is out at dinner and they just took a phone call, interrupted their dinner, and they need to record that time. This is how simple it is. I'm going to hit the plus sign in the top right, and I need a matter. I'm going to touch the word that says matter. It's going to go to the billing system and pull back the matters they've worked on in the last 30 days. That's what it defaults to, with the last matter they worked on at the top. And this data is not on my phone. This data is coming right in from the billing system in real time. So we'll leave the date as today. Let's say it was a 12-minute phone call. Oops, let's make it a 12-minute phone call. Any task, component, activity, or location codes will dynamically build depending on the matter. If there's no codes needed, you won't see it. And then we need a description. I can type something in, or because, like every attorney, I like the sound of my voice, I'm going to use the little microphone next to the space bar. Reviewed client email regarding settlement period. iTimeKeep is the greatest thing since sliced bread! Exclamation point. And I can see it on my phone. Please come up there. If I could show you my phone, I could see it. There it is. It took a little second to get there. So there's the dictation feature. I hit save. And I have one unsubmitted time entry, which is designated by the blue dot. And let's say I needed to search all matters. So it's not a recent matter. Plus sign, touch the matter. This time I'm going to type Kilo Echo Lima in the little search area. It calls that recent matter list onto anything with KEL in it, but this is new or old, so it won't be on this list. I'm going to hit continue search on server. It's going in quicker than I can say it. It went to your database. Pulls back anything with KEL in it in consecutive letters, and I'll make the middle one. And again, I do everything in point twos. Code. See, this is a different component code set. And iTimeKeep is very fast. I can't believe that no attorney would ever not want to use it, period. Save. So I have 2 unsubmitted time entries. I want to throw those back into the bigger billing system. I can still edit them when they're in this case, but I want to go ahead and submit these, get them off my plate. They're whatever system you have, time and billing system, they're in there as unfinalized time. That's how an app needs to work. I know the other day I was down in Florida and I went to look at the weather and I got that little curly thing like it was thinking, you know, that little dot, 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 dot thing that goes in a circle. I got frustrated. Any app you buy for your attorneys has to be fast, has to be intuitive. It has to be native. I don't want to get too technical on you, but do not get any apps that are HTML5 or browser-based. They're too slow and clunky. They will get frustrated and they won't use them and you have wasted your time. And there's much more to iTimeKeep, and there's much more. Is there a list of apps? Give me 1 second. I got a question. And please ask any questions you have, and I'd be happy to answer them. Is there a list of apps that use iTimeKeep to keep time during use? Great question. Thank you, Rebecca. We just launched the API a couple months ago, and the first one to pick it up is Winscribe, but there's a list of people that are starting to nose into the integration. It's very simple for them to do, and I imagine by the end of the year, the beginning of next year, there'll be more than a dozen that do. And Rebecca, if you send me an email, and it's simply john@bellefield.com, I'd be more than happy to keep you abreast of what those are. And let me go ahead and throw up my, trying to play with 2 screens here. Boom, and play. There we go. Throw up my contact information. I'm john@bellefield.com. I can even give you my phone number. It's 412-596-0289 if you have any other questions. Are there any more questions about mobility, about iTimeKeep, about the way we're going with mobile? Just type them in there at the bottom. I see. No, oops, somebody else. Marlene, you have your hand raised. You need to go to the restroom. Just type, Marlene, if you have a question, just go ahead and type it in. Or you can go to the restroom if you wish. You have my permission. Well, everybody, thank you for your time today. Again, email me at john@bellefield. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Download iTimeKeep to your iPhones, iPads, Androids, log in as a guest, go ahead and play with it. If you have any ideas on enhancements, please tell me. That's how we've created the #1 selling legal application in the world right now. We have clients, and we have the 2 largest firms in Sweden, which is like saying we have the largest fish in the aquarium. They're not all that large, but it's honored to have them, and many other countries. So please look forward to talking to you all at some point. I hope this has been an informative webinar, and thank you, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Oh, sorry, there's one more. What's the integration process with timekeeping system Rippy? Rippy Kingston, I love Rippy Kingston. They're a great group of people. We do have an integration with them. We integrated with Rippy. Actually, they should have, as they go around and visit you, they tell you about iTimeKeep. I probably have 50 Rippy firms. Installation of iTimeKeep takes an hour. Does not take any dedicated servers. Doesn't take any professional services. We literally install a small little service on your service behind your firewall. It's as secure as you could possibly get. We don't open up any ports. And Marlene, we work along with Rippy to do the installation, and literally it takes about an hour. And there's no minimum number of users. We don't look at you and say, you have 150 attorneys, you have to buy 150 seats. We say, what do you want? I'm here to help you. Here's another question. What happens if they do not have a matter opened? Excellent question, Joanne. Thank you. If there's no matter opened, there's nothing for it to pull. But what my firms do is they'll put in a faux matter, just a fake matter, and then when it's sent in, they'll move it around within the billing system. That's an excellent question. That comes up a lot. And as long as you have another question that comes up that nobody asked yet, as long as you have a cell connection or a Wi-Fi connection, you can use iTimeKeep. We don't store, for security reasons, as this world is becoming more and more security conscious, we don't store any data on the phone at any time. When you leave the app, it wipes it clean, which is very important. How do you track time not committed? I'm not sure what that means, Joanne, time not committed. So when you create a time entry and you hit save within iTimeKeep, it creates a time entry with that blue dot like I showed you. We have you can't partially submit time. So when you submit time, it submits. I want contemporaneous time entry, and I want the time to get into your system as quickly as possible. So we don't allow them to partially submit time, but you can run a report to see who has blue dots on their phone, and that's not a problem because they'll see those and you just hit submit. They want to hand those off. We have literally changed the habits of attorneys successfully by giving them, you can't use a carrot, you can't use a stick, you can't change rules and regulations because then they just ignore those. The only way to change habit is to give somebody an easier way to do something, and that's what we've done with the time. Is it perfect for everybody? No, but we move the bar enough that it can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to your firm. And how fun would it be not to have to chase them around? Does it pull in timekeepers' temporary matters? Yes. As long as a matter is created, Jennifer, as long as a matter is in your billing system, iTimeKeep can see it. It's pretty interesting. I had a fellow, he's actually on my website, Sam Simon. He's on one of the videos. He was in Rome, Italy. One of his clients just opened up a brand new matter, and instantly he was able to access that matter from his iPhone and be able to add time to it from Rome. Can you feed to a desktop time entry like Carpe Diem or DTE instead of a billing system? Actually, these are great questions. Thanks, guys. Yes, iTimeKeep not only integrates with all of those billing systems, but we can also integrate with DTE or Carpe Diem. I have a large Minneapolis firm that's 3 letters they use WebView in Minneapolis. In their London office, they use some ancient Carpe Diem. In one of their other offices, I believe they use DTE. And again, it's just an hour. It doesn't really matter. As long as we can pull the matter names and insert the time, we can do that. Can the administrator submit the time for the attorneys? Question from Emily. Emily, yes. There is a way to do that. But you'll find you won't need to do that, but it's a nice little safeguard. Typically, the only time that happens, Emily, is when you ask somebody to leave and you turn them off. You flick the switch so they can't use iTimeKeep anymore, and you want to force submit their time. So that is possible. Marlene asked, what is the per user cost? And I always chuckle about that question because it's, according to LexisNexis, and again, it depends on the size of your firm, it's costing you $50,000 to $75,000 a year not to use iTimeKeep. It costs about $36 a month for the lowest number of users. As you get into larger numbers of users, it goes down from there. So it's ridiculously inexpensive to use iTimeKeep. And we've been able to do that because we integrate not just with one time and billing system, but because we integrate with 30 different time and billing systems, and we can share the cost of our R&D. We spend over $100,000 a month just in R&D alone trying to keep up with the change in mobility. There's a new every day. iOS 6 is coming out, or the iPhone 6 is coming out. iOS 8 is coming out. Samsung's working on their own operating system called Tizen. We need to keep ahead of that. And there's not one time and billing system that has the wherewithal to be able to focus on billing like that. What is the lowest number of users? I do have a minimum, Marlene, and my tongue's in my cheek right now if you could see me. The minimum number of users is 1. You have to have at least one user to use iTimeKeep. And I have a lot of solo practitioners, and there's been several firms. I'll try to talk into a couple more than one, but I have several firms that started with 1. I have one firm that's 2,500 attorneys, and the one attorney said he'll pay for it himself, and now it's growing into quite something exceeding the number of 1. Thank you for the smiley face, Marlene. But I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to get your attorneys your time contemporaneously, here to help you be a hero. We didn't even talk about the reports that are available with iTimeKeep, where we validate the return on investment to you, and you can prove to your firm and show what a hero you are for recommending this within the firm. And please, John at Bellefield, send me an email. I'd love to have a talk with you offline and answer any of your other questions. I'd like to hear what trials and tribulations you're going through with your time entry efforts, what you're doing with your mobile policies within your firm. Some firms are using mobile device management, some of the larger firms, to manage all of this. Most of my firms aren't. Just the very large firms are doing that. But I love to learn, and I love to understand what you're doing, and I'd be open to any conversation the same. We went a little longer than I thought. These questions were fantastic. Thanks, everybody. You guys have a great Thursday. Feel free to call me. Obviously, I like to talk about this, and I like to talk to you about it. Have a great day. Thank you.